access to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome. This is India Global, and I'm Arjun Samar Mahendran. From the PM Modi Qatari Emir meet in New Delhi to the US-Russia negotiations unfurling right now in Riyadh, and of course, Elon Musk-led Tesla's India recruitment drive. It's a packed Tuesday here at India Global, but first, here are the headlines. India and Qatar elevate ties to strategic partnership. New Delhi aims to double trade with Doha to $28 billion in 5 years, even explores signing a free trade agreement. Russian and US officials meet in Saudi Arabia to chart out peace plan for Ukraine war nearing 3 years. However, Europe and Kiev don't get a seat on the negotiating table. Egypt in process of developing plan to rebuild Gaza by creating safe zones within the war-torn enclave, countering Trump's call to depopulate the territory. Costa Rica follows in Panama and Guatemala's footsteps, announces willingness to receive illegal migrants deported from the United States who are nationals of other countries. And Tesla starts hiring in India after Modi-Musk meet. Musk's surprise move signals entry into giant Indian EV market. And on to our big story this evening, viewers. A day after Prime Minister Modi actually broke protocol to personally welcome his brother, Qatar Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al-Thani at the New Delhi airport, the two countries have elevated ties to a strategic partnership. It's a move to further bolster ties in trade, investment and energy cooperation. The two leaders reviewed bilateral relations shortly after Sheikh Tamim was accorded a ceremonial welcome by President Draupadi Murmu at the Rashtrapati Bhavan earlier today, in fact. Meanwhile, PM Modi has personally invited the Emir to India, reflecting the importance attached by India to bilateral ties. Now, this is the Qatar Emir's first visit to India in nearly a decade, and it marks the reset of bilateral ties following strains. Now, they were caused by the incarceration of 8 Indian Navy veterans in Qatar 2 years ago. For more on this story, we are joined by Professor James Dorsey. He's the Middle East expert and the adjunct senior fellow at Singapore's S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies. We'll take a look at the uncut first.
India and Qatar today enjoy deep-rooted friendly relations anchored in historic trade and people-to-people ties. Both countries commemorated the 50 years of establishment of diplomatic relations in 2023. The Prime Minister thanked the Emir of Qatar for his support for the large Indian community in Qatar, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic period. The Qatar Amir also appreciated the Indian community for its contribution to the development of Qatar. India and Qatar today enjoy deep-rooted friendship.
My colleague Mohammad Ghazali, in fact, joins us for more on this developing story. Ghazali, what's the latest you're picking? There was an MEA press conference, in fact, where a lot was mentioned that has happened during the past 2 days. What are you picking up? What's the latest?
Steve, both the parties have reaffirmed their ties between the two countries, and they have now elevated it to a strategic partnership. Now, a strategic partnership certainly certifies that both the parties will engage and deepen their cooperation in multiple areas, be it energy, defense, education, and other sectors, and they will also explore new avenues for investment. Basically, the thrust of this entire meeting was that Qatar happens to be a very influential partner of India in the West Asia, having a very significant history in being the key negotiator. And at a time when West Asia is in turmoil right now, India certainly needs a reliable partner. And the kind of gesture Prime Minister Modi had shown yesterday while going to the airport and to receive the Emir of Qatar and then giving him guard of honor at Rashtrapati Bhavan today, it certainly shows that India is investing heavily in partners in Gulf. And today, multiple MOUs and agreements are signed upon. Some were related to the tax evasion. Other was certainly this agreement where India and Qatar have decided to elevate their ties. And why this entire visit was very significant from two points of view. One, that Qatar also happens to be our key partner who provides us or caters to 70% or most of the energy needs which India has. And it is also a very influential voice in the West Asia. It is also a member of the Gulf Cooperation Council, and having Qatar on its side, India can always influence or shape the view of the Gulf Cooperation Council, another powerful body in the West Asia. So in overall, the relation between the two countries will only grow stronger from here on after the visit of the Emir of Qatar is what the External Affairs Ministry of India believes.
Of course, that's what we hope, Ghazali. The bilateral relationship will only get stronger after this. Meanwhile, for more on this big story, we are now joined by Professor James Dorsey. He's the Middle East expert and adjunct senior fellow at Singapore's S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies and former Indian ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. Thank you so much for taking out the time, gentlemen. Professor Dorsey, to you first. Now, how will this newly signed strategic partnership, so-called strategic partnership between India and Qatar, impact the broader geopolitical dynamics in the Gulf region? Now, particularly in respect to the shifting alliances, so to say, in energy and trade.
I don't know that it's going to have an impact in terms of shifting alliances. What I do think is that both countries have a vested interest in this relationship. India obviously has an interest in having as broad as possible relationships within the Gulf and among the Gulf countries, particularly given the subtle differences between the various Gulf countries. And at the same time, Qatar has a vested interest in India as a partner, both in terms of technology, but also in terms of the diversification of its clients for its primarily for its liquefied gas, which is part of Qatar's soft power strategy.
Well, on from that, Ambassador Sajjanar is here with us. Ambassador, now, what are the key factors behind the decision to elevate the relations to a strategic partnership?
You know, it's basically, first of all, thank you very much for having me on your show. It's a win-win partnership for both the countries. You know, as Professor Dorsey said, what is Qatar's interest? You know, it's looking for a stable, growing market, assured market for its fossil fuels. And India imports about 40% of its needs of LPG, LNG, petrochemicals, etc., from Qatar. So it's the third largest importer, global importer of these fossil fuels from Qatar. So it's very important in that context. But also in the context, you know, of what you mentioned, shifting global alliances, India has emerged as a very significant player, a very significant global actor, you know, in the area of, you know, changing strategic partnerships, as also in the area of technology. So in all these areas, Qatar is looking for India's partnership, for India's support. As far as Qatar is concerned, for India, as I said, a very significant bilateral partner, but also it punches much above its political weight and its economic weight in that region. You see, when the whole issue of the Doha agreement between the United States and the Taliban was being negotiated, that was done in Doha, in Qatar, and that is where, in fact, the office of the Taliban is also located. And India's relations with Taliban are getting, coming on a more even keel, much better than, in 2021 when Taliban came to power in Kabul. Even in the Hamas-Israel conflict in Gaza, we've seen that Qatar has played a very important role and continues to play a very important role. So I think you look at it in many ways. Of course, it had to face the brunt of the other GCC members some years ago when they boycotted Qatar and made some 13 demands of it, like shutting down Al Jazeera and doing away with its relations with Iran. But that notwithstanding, Qatar was able to withstand all that pressure. So I think its importance has continued to grow. So the strategic partnership that has been signed, it is a multifaceted partnership, not related only to business. It is also our Indian diaspora, which is about 830,000 out of the total population of 3 million in Qatar. So that is a very strong living bridge between the two countries. And the visit of the Emir, the special gesture shown by Prime Minister Modi by going to the airport, I think to receive him, I think that will go a long way in further cementing these ties and taking them to new heights.
Well, that's absolutely correct, Ambassador. In fact, if I'm not wrong, Indian expatriates make up around 27% of the entire population, and I'll come back to you on that. But Professor Dorsey, how can, taking from what the ambassador also said and you also mentioned, how can the countries leverage their growing economic cooperation in energy and trade?
I think one of the areas which I think we haven't really spoken much about is technology. And in some ways, Qatar lags behind. You've seen Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates in recent months put their bets in the United States in terms of artificial intelligence. Both countries want to be leaders in AI. They've weakened their relationships with China with regard to technology and AI. So the technology bit here, I think, is something that one shouldn't underestimate.
Ambassador, now coming to you on the Indian expatriate community in Qatar. Now, how significant is the community in Qatar, which makes up around 27% of the entire population of the country, as I was saying, in shaping the diplomatic and the economic relations between both the countries, in fact?
I think it's a huge factor, because what this government, particularly under Prime Minister Modi when he came to power, I think one of the foremost objectives of the government has been to take care of the Indian community. So you would have seen wherever Prime Minister has gone or the other ministers have gone, they always connect with the Indian community. They always, the Indian diaspora is a very important element of the foreign policy of this government. And so the support to the Indian diaspora is very important. And of course, the Emir also, whenever he has, whenever meetings have taken place, or, the two leaders, whether it was Prime Minister's visits to Qatar in 2015 or 2024 last year, or the conversations or the visit of Emir to India. So they have been very, spoken about the huge contribution that the Indian diaspora has made. They are a very diverse lot. They are a hugely talented lot, and they are held in high respect by the leadership in Qatar. So they are truly, as I said, a living bridge between the two countries, which strengthens our partnership. And this is reflected, in the large number of cultural events that take place, and of course, also in terms of the huge number of bilateral visits that take place between the two countries. They, are from a wide array of fields, whether it is in medicine, in education, in engineering, and they really bring the two countries together.
Professor Dorsey, before you leave, my last question to you. Now, how do the countries, how do India and Qatar, in fact, plan to collaborate on addressing regional security issues, given their strategic location? Both the countries are placed in strategic locations. How do they, how will they manage to address these geopolitical and regional security concerns?
Well, I think obviously Qatar takes the lead in a lot of this, given its role as a mediator. We're going to have to see where the second phase Gaza ceasefire negotiations go. And of course, what will come out of the meetings in Riyadh between the foreign ministers of the United States and Russia. While that is focused on Ukraine, without question, Iran and other Middle Eastern subjects are going to be discussed. I think by and large, Qatar and India find themselves on the same side of the divide. I think you're also going to see probably greater security cooperation between the two countries, greater defense cooperation, and that's going to be part of what is hopefully going to help stabilize the Middle East.
And taking on from what Professor Dorsey, in fact, said right now, Ambassador Sajjanar, how do you see the revised double taxation agreement impacting business relations between the two nations?
Yeah, I think that is a very important document also, in addition to the strategic partnership document. This is avoidance of double taxation, and also, there was an agreement earlier, but obviously there were some flaws in it that were found, and that is why this has been further amended. And I think that will provide greater certainty and greater credibility as far as the economic exchanges are concerned, economic interaction is concerned. And that will, I think, help to take the economic relationship, trade relationship further. Because at the moment, if you see, it is about $14 billion. In both sides, there are about 20,000 Indian companies which are operating in Qatar. Of course, in this bilateral trade, now it has been agreed to increase it, make it double to $28 billion in another 5 years. And the trade is heavily weighted in favor of Qatar, obviously, because we are such significant importers of fossil fuels to meet our energy needs and energy requirements. But that having been said, our exports of about $1.7 billion, they are about the fourth largest to Qatar, and I think that is also going to increase. So as both the countries are looking at a significant expansion of their bilateral trade, investment, engagement and partnership, I think this agreement will go a long way in facilitating that.
Well, thank you once again, gentlemen, for taking out the time. Now it's time for a quick break now. On the other side, we find out what came of the meeting currently underway between India's Border Security Force and Border Guards Bangladesh in New Delhi.
Ladies and gentlemen, we found the reason why Britain hasn't been so great of late. It's because the country hasn't been eating enough Weetabix.
It makes sense. I've been eating croissants.
Me too. We should deliver Weetabix to where it's needed most, to whoever's in charge of fixing potholes. VAR.
Yes.
And drivers who park like this.
Yeah!
To Britain, we must say, have you had your Weetabix?
I like making sure I've got all the right tools for the job.
And now that I'm 50, that means looking after the life I've built, protecting my life if anything happened to me. That's why I decided to learn more about over 50s life insurance from Cover Today. They're the only over 50s life insurer with no waiting period, unlike other insurers who could make you wait up to 2 years for full cover. With Cover Today, you're fully covered from day one. And you're covered for the whole of your life. Plus, unlike other things in life, the price never goes up. Learning more couldn't be simpler. Go online or talk to their friendly UK team in just one phone call.
Cover Today are the only over-50s life insurer with no waiting period and no annoying trips to the doctors either. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Cover Today has given me genuine peace of mind. And now that's done, I can get on with something much more interesting.
To find out more about Cover Today, call our friendly UK team on 0808 143 4733 or visit covertoday.co.uk.
What are you so happy about?
I've just made a claim. We could be owed thousands.
My claim group?
Yeah, the cars we bought on finance, well, the lenders could have charged hidden commissions. It's dead simple to claim.
Hey, I had 2 cars before we met.
Go to My Claim Group. You could be owed thousands in hidden commissions from cars you bought on finance since 2007, even if you can't remember the details.
Done.
Simple, eh?
Go to My Claim Group now.
Claims made simple.
Do you need to borrow money for home improvements, a car, or paying off debts? Then you've come to the right place. Everyday Loans. Just tell us how much you want to borrow, up to £15,000. At Everyday Loans, we offer a service that's friendly and reliable. Apply online or on your phone. So whatever your credit record, apply now at everydayloans.co.uk.
Awarded Best Customer Service at the 2023 Moneyfax Consumer Awards.
Representative APR 99.9%.
Kelsey and Reese could part exchange their car. Or check out We Buy Any Car. They could be confused if they got a good deal part exchanging. Or have cash in the bank with more bargaining power to get their dream camper van. Bad vibes or good vibes only. To get a quote in 30 seconds, enter your reg number now at webuyanycar.com.
Welcome back. You're watching India Global with me, Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Now, amid a row over border fencing, the border security agencies of India and Bangladesh are holding Director General level biannual talks in New Delhi today. The first such meeting since former Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's ouster last year. Now, the meeting, which is currently underway at the BSF headquarters in New Delhi, is expected to focus on a range of issues such as the border fence construction and attacks on BSF personnel and civilians by Bangladeshi criminals. My colleague Neeta Sharma joins us for more on this story. Neeta, what's the latest you're picking up? Is the meeting underway? Has it ended? What's the latest?
Yeah, you know, this meeting is happening at a very crucial time when there is a lot of trust deficit between both the countries. Both countries have been blaming each other for keeping the border, you know, active, and both of them, in fact, have huge trust deficit issues. This meeting was supposed to take place last year in November, but on the request of Bangladesh, it was postponed, and now it's happening now in February. So it's a very crucial meeting. What we are learning is that during the course of the conference today, attack on BSF personnel was raised by the Indian side. It was also raised that, you know, how to prevent trans-border crimes, because that is again one of the major issues as far as Indian security forces are concerned, Indian border guarding forces are concerned, and also the issue of one-line fencing. That is again one of the biggest issues as far as West Bengal and Tripura is concerned. Although India shares border along Bangladesh in other states also, but these are two crucial states where it's a huge issue. Both West Bengal and Tripura, one-line fence border was raised with the Bangladesh border guarding forces. Another issue which was raised was that how and why Indian insurgent groups are active in Bangladesh, and how to nullify their activity from across the borders also, and also how to increase the effective implementation of a border management plan and increase the confidence building measures. Another interesting aspect is that India has been blaming Bangladesh for increasing level of proximity between Pakistan. In fact, Indian intelligence agencies have been suggesting that Bangladesh has been allowing Pakistani ISI elements to have a surveillance all along borders, and this issue has been raised by India diplomatically with Bangladesh also. Today it was raised with Bangladesh border guarding force security wise. You know, in fact, we have been told by the border security force that both sides have been using drones to put surveillance on the border area. So issues pertaining to security were also raised, and issues concerning how to increase the infrastructure all along the border areas was also raised in the first day of the meeting, which is being held today.
Thank you so much for that, Neeta. Moving on, 4 paramilitary personnel were killed and 5 others were injured after unidentified militants ambushed their squad in Pakistan's violent-hit Kurram district on Monday. The attack targeted the Kurram militia squad in Lower Kurram's Orchard area. The wounded and deceased were rushed to a hospital where one of the injured remains in critical condition. Now, earlier in the day, an aid convoy, in fact, carrying essential supplies, also came under attack in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The ambush claimed 2 lives, including the truck driver, and left at least 15 others injured. Now, the convoy was traveling from Thal to Kurram and was attacked at multiple locations along its route, forcing authorities to redirect it back to Hangu as a precautionary measure. Over in Latin America, Costa Rica has announced its willingness to act as a quote-unquote bridge to repatriate undocumented immigrants in the United States. Now, the illegal immigrants will include those from India and Central Asia as well. The first group of 200 migrants are set to arrive at the Juan Santa Maria International Airport on a commercial flight as early as Wednesday. Now, it still remains unclear how many of them are from India. The deported will be transferred to a temporary migrant care facility before being repatriated to their countries of origin. Now, 3 batches comprising a total of 332 Indians have already been sent back to India amid an intensified crackdown by the Trump 2.0 administration against illegal immigrants. And after students protested the death by suicide of a student on the Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology campus in Odisha's Bhubaneswar, students from Nepal claimed they were evicted from the campus premises. Now, tension erupted on the KIIT campus in Odisha after a third-year student from Nepal was found dead in a hostel room. Now, the university has appealed to all students from Nepal to quote-unquote return to the campus and resume their classes.
Yesterday evening, we received an information that one girl student of third-year computer science in KIT University had committed suicide. There was an allegation that one boy of third-year mechanical engineering, he had harassed her, and as a consequence, she had committed suicide. We investigated the matter and there were prima facie evidences. So we arrested the accused, and today he has been forwarded to the judicial custody.
It's time we slip into a short break now, but on the other side, we decode the growing uncertainty and friction over Donald Trump's Ukraine peace plan. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
When I woke up, they said, Alyssa, you've got leukemia. We found out that the chemo wasn't working. So at that point, it was like, I'm gonna die. My consultant was looking for these clinical trials, and she found this one at Great Ormond Street. I'm cancer-free now.
Curing Alyssa was a world first, but cancer is still the biggest killer of children in the UK. Will you help us do more? Search Gosh Care to give £3 a month and help build a new children's cancer centre at Great Ormond Street Hospital, a home for breakthrough research with world-class facilities to help beat cancer for more children. Together, with your kind support, we can help save lives and transform children's cancer care for decades to come. Text CARE to 70125 to give £3 a month and help build our new children's cancer centre. Together, we can beat cancer for more children.
With Post Office Over 50s life cover, enjoy peace of mind knowing your family will receive a guaranteed payout when you're gone. UK resident 50 to 80, your guaranteed acceptance. No health checks and free 24/7 GP access with the health and wellbeing benefit. Purchase and receive a £125 gift card. Plus, get an extra £30 winter warmer cashback. Call Post Office on 0800 328 6666.
No child should suffer the torture of trachoma. But so many are in pain right now. Nananga's lashes have turned inwards. They rip and tear away at his eyes. Pamelo's sight could be gone forever. He's just 3 years old. Kofanga screams for his mother. His eyes are so infected that he can't even see her. For so many children in the world's poorest countries, trachoma is torture. It's a painful infection often spread by flies, and it's destroying children's eyesight. But it could be stopped if you help today. By calling 0800 038 4926 and giving £1 a week to Sightsavers, you can help make sure children get the treatment they desperately need. You'll help us bring them the medicines and the care that can treat infections. And that means you'll be helping to save children from the torture of trachoma and a life of blindness. Please help us reach them. Call 0800 038 4926. Text C13 to 82727 or go online and give just £1 a week now. Because we need you to help save the sight of children like Nananga. We need you to help save them from the torture of trachoma.
Welcome back. You're watching India Global with me, Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. The United States and Russia on Tuesday kicked off high-level talks, marking President Donald Trump's reversal of American policy on Moscow, fueling fears in Kiev and building the Kremlin's hopes of re-entering the international mainstream. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met in Saudi Arabia, which is mediating, in fact, the talks, while Ukraine and Europe have ironically been left out of the negotiating table. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has meanwhile warned that Kiev will not recognize peace deals made without Ukrainian participation. This, as reports indicate, that Russia has demanded that NATO scrap the 2008 promise made to Ukraine for membership, while saying that Kiev joining European Union was its sovereign right. Meanwhile, European leaders, after a meeting in France, have signaled sending troops to Ukraine and added military aid. For more on this story, I'm joined by senior journalist Tatiana Kukareva from Moscow. Tatiana, if you could hear me, what's Russia's main objective in these talks, particularly in relation to the future of its relationship with the US and the broader geopolitical landscape?
Good day to you, Arjun. I think that in terms of the main perspective that Russia was coming into this meeting with, it was best laid out by our Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who said that they are coming in to first listen what the other side has to say. But from what we are seeing right now, both sides have right now agreed that this meeting has been positive, has been productive, but it's just a first meeting. So, the Russian side has stressed strongly that we're not looking at some groundbreaking developments today or even next week. The meeting of the presidents is unlikely to happen next week. However, both sides have discussed, as far as I understand, future economic cooperation, as well as the Ukrainian crisis, but also the future economic cooperation, enlarged cooperation in terms of geopolitical questions and issues that two might have, and price on oil and sources of energy.
I'll just come back to you on that, Tatiana. Meanwhile, my colleague Nick Harper joins us from Washington, D.C. Nick, how significant is Europe's exclusion from these talks happening in Saudi Arabia?
Well, from Europe's point of view, it's certainly reason for concern. Remember, Ukraine is saying that they will not accept any negotiated peace if they are not part of the negotiations themselves. And I think we have, therefore, not just Ukraine, but European allies really sitting on the sidelines here, watching all of this unfold and really worrying that we could potentially move in a direction that sees a peace deal negotiated by the US and Russia that is favourable for Russia and not favourable for Ukraine. The US is, however, saying that this is just the beginning of talks, the preliminary stages, really to try and get the ball rolling. And in many ways, US officials are underlining this idea of it really being about a normalisation of US-Russia relations, trying to get them on a more steady footing after 3 years of really not speaking to one another, rather than these Riyadh talks being an opportunity to negotiate peace in Ukraine. So certainly consternation from Europe, but the US trying to say that this is just the opening salvo in what will be a longer process to try and negotiate peace in Ukraine.
Now, taking from that, Tatiana, given Ukraine's exclusion, as you just mentioned, how does Russia, in fact, view the potential for peace talks and its leverage over Kiev's participation in the future negotiations? It might be short-term or even long-term.
Well, I do believe that, both sides are right now kind of still feeling around and understanding where each other stands. But, President Putin has said it, and I think we need to listen to what he says very carefully and attentively. He has said that Moscow is viewing Washington as its primary vis-a-vis when it comes to this conflict. And it's a very clear statement. It's also a very logical statement because Washington has been, the previous administration had been bankrolling this conflict since way before the active military phase broke out in 2022. So the prospects are actually very, it could be long-term perspective here. It just comes to the point of where the two sides being Moscow and Washington, happen to agree on what's acceptable to both of them.
Well, let me take that across to our guest from Ukraine. In fact, the former director of Ukraine's Ministry of Economic Development and Trade, Olena Tregub, joins us. Olena, what impact do you think the exclusion of Ukraine from these talks will have on Kiev's negotiating position, even in the future?
Well, I think that this is the war between Russia and Ukraine. And Russia started this war, and now there are two parties in this war. So if Ukraine is excluded, it just means that Ukrainian people, Ukrainian nation, they will be deciding themselves what to do. When we had the revolution on Maidan in 2014, there was negotiation between our autocratic Russian agent, President Yanukovych, and the Western partners, European Union, US, and they agreed that he can stay for a while. But they didn't include Ukrainian people. And because of that, Ukraine proceeded to push him out. And this will be the same. It's a decision of two nations. There are two nations at war right now, and one nation is excluded. So one nation will still, Ukrainians are resilient. They want to defend their country. They don't want to surrender to Russia. It doesn't matter that it will be maybe negotiated between Russia and US.
It's not only Ukraine, interesting. The European Union has also been excluded. A question for you, Nick. How do you think the European countries can effectively assert their interests without being sidelined by these talks?
Well, they're certainly trying, holding their own summits on the same day as this Riyadh summit. We know that the European Union has said that they want to be a partner with the United States in this whole peace negotiation. But it does seem rather difficult if we have these bilateral meetings between the US and Russia where other allies are excluded, not just Ukraine, but any of the other European countries. European countries that have helped Ukraine over the last 3 years and therefore feel that they have a dog in this fight, that they should be part of the negotiations. They also say that with Ukraine being part of Europe, on the doorstep there, between Russia and the rest of Western Europe, it is vital that Europeans should have a say in what takes place next, because there has been that warning for many, many months that if President Putin gets what he wants in this negotiated peace, then what could potentially stop him from moving even further into Europe in the future? And I think there is that fear, therefore, from Europe. If they're not part of negotiations, if they're not part of setting the agenda and setting out what comes next, then there is this problem that we could see the Europeans quite simply not getting what they want. So that fear from Europe, but the US continuing to say there is a possibility further down the line for greater participation. But at this stage, they're keeping it very close to their chest, just dealing with the Russians and excluding Ukraine and the European countries.
Over to you now, Tatiana. How does Russia perceive this shift in US foreign policy all of a sudden after the Biden administration towards Moscow, especially considering the potential involvement of Donald Trump in all future discussions and negotiations when it comes to this war?
Well, Arjun, there's nothing sudden about this shift. It was very clear from the beginning that the Republican Party, and it's not about just Donald Trump himself, it's about the Republican Party, that the Republican Party will pursue a more logical, more, less populist position when it comes to this conflict. I mean, I'm listening to what my counterparts are saying, but it just, this story about we need to stop peddling the story about Russia being a threat to Europe. That just needs to stop. There's nothing, it's gotten old already after 3 years, and I don't believe that people in Europe actually, people, not politicians, actually believe that Russia is or will be threatening Europe at any point in time. There is no logical explanation for it, and the whole idea of this conflict being some illogical all of a sudden thing that just happened, well, I believe that Europeans are smarter than that. When it comes to, this whole idea of other parties being included because this war, for instance, is a war of the Ukrainian people. This war has nothing to do with the Ukrainian people. There was half of the population that voted for the ousted president Yanukovych. There was half of the population of Ukraine that was very discontented with what happened in 2014. Now, this half of the population, you may call it, they call them terrorists, you may call them separatists. These half of the population didn't go anywhere. Well, surely part of it has now become a part of Russian population. However, if you listen to President Zelensky, who's, he's saying that Ukraine doesn't need elections. He's so out of touch with the Ukrainian population. It is shocking to an outside viewer. So we need to stop peddling these ideas, the same slogans that Ukrainians and Europeans have been, left-wing politicians in Europe and Ukrainian leadership, the current Ukrainian leadership, have been peddling from the very beginning, because they have gotten old. They don't have the same ring anymore.
Well, our guest from Russia claims Zelensky is out of touch. Olena, I'd have you reply to that. What do you say to that? Is Zelensky out of touch?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say that, Tatiana, please don't distort reality and tell us fake news. 50% of Ukrainians voted for Yanukovych when they thought that he is pro-Ukrainian, and he pretended to be pro-Ukrainian and spoke Ukrainian language. But when they realized that he plays Russian interests, almost nobody supported him several years after that election. And right now, before the war, the support was maybe at 10%. So the same with Zelensky. He remains to be Ukrainian legitimate president, and what
and when
he
did
does,
his term end, Olena? When did his term end?
His term now is officially extended because we do not have election during wartime. It's according to Ukrainian constitution.
Because he says that he does
Tatiana,
not.
I'll give you time to counter. We are having a very
by all Ukrainians. Yes. He's recognized as a president. Moreover, I can tell you, what he does under pressure of Ukrainian population. We are democracy. If he surrenders Ukraine, he won't be president anymore. Even the fact that he refused their deal with Americans regarding their critical minerals, it's because this deal was publicized and it wasn't good for Ukraine. And he understands that he would be not president after that anymore. So it's the other way around than it is in your country, because we are democracy and it's hard for you to process.
Tatiana, just before you come in, concerning rare earth minerals, I have a question for Olena. Olena, how does Ukraine perceive the possibility of a deal between US and Russia, particularly regarding access to the rare earth minerals you were just talking about?
First of all, we don't mind if there is a deal between us and US regarding critical minerals, if it is about investment and about security guarantees, which will be for us once America is developing businesses in Ukraine for mutual benefit. However, when it looks like extortion, we signed Budapest Memorandum, gave up nuclear weapon. Two guarantors of this deal is that Russia and America. Russia tries to take away our sovereignty and territory. America tries to take away minerals. It doesn't look good at all. So this is why we should avoid this kind of rhetoric, and this is why it's the right thing that Zelensky refused this first proposal, because there should be a much better deal on the table.
I'll give you time for a quick rebuttal there, Tatiana, please. And also,
Olena?
I mean, as you give your rebuttal, there's a statement, in fact, from Vladimir Putin earlier today saying he is, in fact, open to talking to Zelensky if and when the need arises. So if you could just elaborate a bit on that as well, Tatiana, please.
Well, look, elaborating, I don't believe that this statement needs any elaboration. You know, if the president says he's ready to talk to Vladimir Zelensky, that is very much the case. But he's also has been ready to talk, a realistic talk about a realistic agreement for years now. We can say years because it's soon going to be 3 years. So it's not even 2. Look, Olena, in regards to your former statement, Ukraine has lost the right to the territories that are right now in active military action. In 2014, when those territories declared that they have nothing to do with the coup d'etat that happened in Kiev. That's very simple. You know, if people who protest in Kiev have the right to overthrow a legitimate president, then the people in Donetsk and Lugansk have the right to say that they don't agree and to secede from Ukraine. That is, there is no double standard, or at least there shouldn't be any double standard. So Russia is not trying to take any sort of sovereignty away from you. And when it comes to, you know, if we go as far as, you know, giving up nuclear weapons, well, nuclear weapons were Sovietic, not Ukrainian. And Soviet Union's capital was in Moscow. And as much as our
Ukraine was
Indian
not part of
neighbors-
Soviet Union as a part of the genocide.
Really?
And
Really?
you take you try to take away 4 regions of Ukraine, not 2. Did you forget about Zaporizhia, about Dnipropetrovsk region? What about the other Lugansk?
No, nobody's trying to
and
take
Donetsk?
We'll keep it very,
very
very,
much
very
mistaken.
civil.
It's just
Yeah.
generally my
One question,
sorry,
one
but
question from our guest from
distortion of-
Ukraine. What are your thoughts, and a very, very quick answer from both the sides, what are your thoughts on Zelensky's warning that Europe must, in fact, strengthen its own defense and foreign policy in response to changes in fact, American support under Trump 2.0? A very, very quick reply from both of you on this.
Zelensky is trying
It's
to
a-
bargain his chips, basically. He's trying to get more financing because he's losing the American financing, which was the bulk of what Ukraine was able to, you know, use then militarily. So he will try and bargain every single chip that he has to get more money involved. Because as this conflict for Zelensky he's interested in prolonging it as long as possible.
Thank you
That's
so
very
much,
simple.
Tatiana. Closing comment from Olena. Olena, a quick comment from you, please.
Well, we now will continue fighting, and Europe needs to wake up. It's a wake-up call. Europe needs to get out of bed because Russia is a threat to Europe.
Well, thank you so much for making the time and joining us. It's time we slip into a short break. More on the other side.
With retirement round the corner, I want to spend more time with my family and less time worrying about the numbers. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK. UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money could help with funeral costs or even as a gift for the grandkids. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
You got them all right. That's amazing.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 977 5808 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
This is an important message for people living with diabetes from people living with diabetes.
When I was experiencing the symptoms of diabetes, I didn't know what was going on.
You go on the internet and it's full of horror stories.
I didn't understand about carbs, I didn't understand about blood glucose levels.
That's why the support I get as a Diabetes UK member is so important.
You can become a Diabetes UK member for just £3 a month. When you do, you'll receive a practical guide specific to your type of diabetes and a copy of Balance magazine 4 times a year. Plus, you'll help support research that could lead to better treatments for all types of diabetes.
As members, we're all working it out together.
Call 0800 144 5410 or go online to become a Diabetes UK member for just £3 a month. Join us now because membership can help you learn to live better with diabetes.
I'll fix him, love. Poor pet. Just shows you never know what's going to happen. Which reminds me, I need to protect the life we've built. That's why I'm looking into Smart Family Life Insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote, please.
OK. You can choose a benefit amount up to £750,000, depending on your age. If you're a UK resident aged 18 to 64, you can apply with just a few health and lifestyle questions. For £250,000 of cover, the price starts at just £14.77 a month.
That's less than I thought. And it could help my husband with the mortgage.
Just like families, not all life insurance is the same. That's why we offer the Smart Family Guarantee.
That's good to know.
You'll also receive a 100% advance in the event of terminal illness and 10% cash back on your first year's premiums. That's the Smart Cashback. Plus, you'll also get your choice of a £125 gift card.
Protect the life you've built the smart way. To get a free quote today, call our specialist UK team on 0800 977 5753 or visit smartinsurance.co.uk.
Welcome back to India Global. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Over in West Asia, Israel's Security Cabinet will begin negotiations on the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal. Now, this includes an exchange of the remaining Israeli hostages with Palestinian detainees. Israel has also, in fact, demanded a complete demilitarization of the enclave. Negotiations for the second phase of the deal were supposed to be underway before the first phase ends on the 2nd of March. However, Qatar said that the talks have not officially started yet. Meanwhile, Egypt is developing a plan of its own to reconstruct Gaza that would not displace the Palestinian population. The plan comes as a counter to US President Donald Trump's controversial Gaza proposal to quote-unquote take over the enclave and displace the Palestinians living there. Cairo's proposal calls for establishing a secure area or multiple secure areas within Gaza in which Palestinians can live for an initial 6 months. Meanwhile, let's be breaking out to Riyadh, where US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is addressing the media after his meeting with Sergei Lavrov. Listen in.
Crimea annexation to be closed. There are no longer issues because I think, you mentioned that Keir Starmer is going to be in Washington next week. I can imagine that the Brits won't be particularly.
I'm not going to negotiate or talk through every element of
the disruptions that exist or have existed in our diplomatic relations and the mechanics of it. Suffice it to say that President Trump has pledged and intends to keep his promise to do everything he can to bring an end to this conflict. We cannot do that unless we have at least some normalcy in the way our diplomatic missions operate in Moscow and in Washington, D.C. And so we need to work to improve that, and we're going to work with them to see what's possible within that context.
Does that include removing Lavrov from rescinding sanctions that have been imposed?
We're just not at that level of conversation yet, but there'll be a number of topics that'll have to be discussed along the way. We haven't even begun that process. Today was just an agreement to begin a process to talk about those things.
All right. Thank
you. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take you in the room. You are in the room.
And as you heard Marco Rubio there, today was an agreement to start the talks, and it'll be a long process here on. Meanwhile, Elon Musk's Tesla is gearing up to enter the Indian market and has already, in fact, begun hiring employees in the country. Now, this move follows Prime Minister Narendra Modi's recent meeting with Musk in the US. Tesla has posted 13 job openings on LinkedIn. That's right, the company has posted 13 job openings on LinkedIn so far, spanning customer service and technical support roles. At least 5 positions, including service technician and advisory roles, are available in both Mumbai and Delhi, while others such as customer engagement manager and delivery operations specialist are designated for Mumbai. For more on this, I'm joined by Ivan Mehta. He's the global consumer tech reporter at TechCrunch. Thank you so much for taking out the time and being with us, Ivan. My first question to you is, how do you think Tesla's recruitment efforts ongoing in the country signal a shift in the country's EV landscape? And moving on, and what challenges might the company face entering the Indian markets in the coming weeks?
So I think it's very early stage to say that there will be an establishment in terms of Tesla setting up shop beyond at least selling. That's what we can see from the roles that are listed. And while initially in the morning there were 13 roles listed, there is one more role that they've added in Pune of someone who works on chips and who works on rather PCBs. That's become available in last couple of hours, I would say. So I think there is an engineering interest as well that might have come from them. Apart from that, I think possibly the Tesla will begin with selling some of its cars, depending on how much leeway they can get in terms of tariffs and in terms of import duties. We know that Tesla tried to sell or even tried to have pre-bookings in last decade, but things didn't work out. And there's been back and forth between Indian government and Tesla in terms of coming to an agreement to sell cars. So until that is finalized, we don't know what Tesla's position would be in the market, but I think there is a positive signal given that these jobs are listed. I think there might have been talks at political level between the company and even the Indian government, I think.
Well, thank you so much for your perspective on that story, Ivan. With that, that's a wrap on the bulletin. Have a wonderful day.
The cost of living crisis is affecting us all, but the impact on Hawela's family is devastating.
wata da damuwa lalle ana fama kuma akwai yan tama gaskiya ana kai yara kam ina doke da juna biyu zuwa gaba musabin da zamu ci.
Hawela has done everything she can for baby Zenadiya, but her community already struggles with poverty. Now they face droughts, food shortages, soaring prices, and it's babies like Zenadiya who suffer the most. She's caught up in a worldwide child hunger crisis that is worsening by the day. This year, over 3 million mothers will lose a child to hunger. Will you help us get urgent food to a baby like Zenadiah? Please support our Child Hunger Crisis appeal by giving £3 a month to Concern Worldwide. Concern supports emergency food programs in 20 countries. But as this crisis deepens, we urgently need to deliver more food supplies. Your £3 a month pays for 120 sachets of nutritious food. They're simple, inexpensive, and save babies' lives month after month. Please think of families like Hoela's. Text HELP NOW to 82727 or call 0800 035 3227. Support our Child Hunger Crisis appeal today. Thank you.
Our first year as a family flew by, and now I want to make sure he'll be financially protected for all his birthdays to come. That's why I'm calling Smart Insurance.
Just like families, not all life insurance is the same. That's why we offer the Smart Family Guarantee. We guarantee a straightforward application process, award-winning service you can trust, and cover from day one. Plus, you get your choice of a £125 gift card.
To get a free quote today, call our specialist UK team or visit smartinsurance.co.uk.
Sign up and start saving with Quidco today. Get cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco.
Sitting quietly while your car is made all shiny. Downtime can be just fine too. Ready meal is piping hot, waterproof on the loo. Just enjoy your back tattoo. Tea break, face break, maybe even watch the ad break. Sometimes it's not time for some tombola, right? It's enjoying lasagna time, chilling with a book time, or time to visit your nan time. Put the phone down.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 20.
Hello and welcome to the Southern View. I'm Veera Raghav. Lots lined up over the next 30 minutes, but first the headlines we're tracking this hour. British national Christian Michael gets bail in the Augusta Westland scam. The Apex Court wraps the CBI for delays, asks if it will be able to conclude trial in 25 years, going by the CBI's conduct. The Supreme Court questions the centre on whether it intends to curb obscenity on online platforms, flags a vacuum in online content regulations. And at the big NDTV profit conclave, Union Minister Piyush Goyal says no need to panic on reciprocal tariffs from the US and that US-India trade will open a floodgate of opportunities. Well, first up this evening, the political exchange over the national education